If you're chronically online like me, you've definitely seen this controversy. If not, I'll give you a quick rundown soon. Also, because half the situation didn't happen in English, I'm mostly going off of Twitter's English translation, so please correct me if I make a mistake. I'm not making this video so I can bring everyone to attack the VTuber or her fans. This is strictly my perspective and opinion on the situation, so whatever you do, please do not send any hate towards her. The situation won't change and you won't look like a good person anyway. So let's get on to the topic. Recently, there was this trend where VTubers would post an image of their model and then their real selves next to it, kind of given like an anime to IRL comparison or whatever. Then there was a specific Brazilian VTuber who also participated in this trend. The problem? When they made the post, the VTuber model itself was dark skinned, with her IRL self being a white person. That post quickly sparked a debate with black people, non black people, and Brazilians. Some viewed this as an issue, while others believed that this was appreciation. For those who didn't know that this was happening or has and wants to know more, you might wonder, why are black people upset? To be honest, I kept seeing more of the defensive side of the VTuber drama, so from my memory, the biggest complaints coming from the whole argument were that it was either digital blackface or people believed that being black or dark skinned isn't an aesthetic you could wear. Which, sound like valid points. I'm not claiming this situation as blackfaced. However, I do believe that being dark skinned isn't an aesthetic you could mess around with to be your persona. Now, you might be thinking, what are people saying in defense of the VTuber? It's a lot. And here's how I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to bring up each defense separately and talk about it because each one made me more upset than the last, and I haven't really seen some people talk about it in the way I'm about to. So we're starting off with the claim the VTuber model isn't black, it's supposed to be a reference of Wooloo the Pokemon. I honestly would have understood this argument if that was truly the case. However, I'm gonna need y'all to look at Wooloo. Now look at the model. Yeah, literally nothing alike except for maybe the ears and skin tone. The hair texture and style are completely different from Wooloo. The horns are a completely different shape and color, and there's no fur anywhere on the body. Even in art pieces of the VTuber, its texture is shown to be more skin than fur. Anybody who used this defense showed only one image where she was given fur tufts around her shoulder, but literally nothing else proved that. I even had a friend, once I showed them both images, tell me, wait, if this is supposed to be Wooloo, why are the ears white when in Wooloo's case, they're the exact same color as the skin? Which I thought was a really good point. And I've seen personas with dark fur colors, even with some brown tones in them. Do I automatically think they're black? No. However, in this situation where the dark part is literally just shiny, bouncy skin rather than obvious fur, how could I not think you're a person of color? There is a severe lack of evidence tying the model as a reference of Wooloo and calling it a persona when it really is just a kimono mimi. The second argument I saw was, well, we got black people with white models, why can't we do it vice versa? The reason why black people may end up with white models goes much deeper than what you may think. The biggest example people kept bringing up to defend the VTuber was Kenji, which I thought was really funny because he literally admitted that no artist was willing to give him darker skin, so he ultimately gave up and ran with the model that he got. A black person with a white VTuber model isn't really by choice, and even if a black person did choose to become a white VTuber, there's sometimes a good reason for that. An example is that they do it to avoid racism in a community that reeks in it. Another is that the algorithm nor the audience cares for black VTubers. Like, how many black VTubers are popular among the Hololive or Kenji level? And also, how many times have you actively searched for black VTubers, It isn't that simple, and we shouldn't treat black people with white models as such. They are not the example that you're looking for. The third point was there was no ill intent when she made the model, so it's not racist. For those who have TikTok, have y'all seen those movie clips of this older black lady taking care of this runaway white girl? And in one scene, she calls her the N-word, not knowing that it was a derogatory term, and the old lady sends her off because it offended her. Just because someone wouldn't know something is wrong, that doesn't mean the act itself isn't wrong. People who say this could be right, but they're actually wrong. This situation, in the eyes of Black Americans, is on par with white people wearing box braids. In this current climate, where Black people are still fighting to be able to express themselves without any racism, it's weird when white people join in during the struggle and suddenly getting praised for it. Especially on the internet, where because people are on a screen or hiding behind it, that they believe that they can say whatever they want. And yeah, I definitely believe that the Brazilian VTuber didn't have any ill intent when paying for the model to be created. However, the response after you receive so much criticism is what determines whether or not you're a good person in the situation. I don't expect for this VTuber to suddenly drop their model. VTuber models are expensive, so I can see why it might take a little time for her to drop it off the face of the earth. I honestly think that if anything, I would love to see it in a Ponder Sprocket or Vanamelon situation where instead of keeping it as your persona, it's a character you play on your streams or whatever, while also having a separate model, PNG or rigged if able to afford it, as your true persona. Now, do I believe that this VTuber is a good person? Kinda no. After the criticism they received, they decided to make a response that said that they were going to keep the model. Who wasn't expecting that, to be honest? And that isn't the bad thing. Her supporters and how she responded to them is what made me think she didn't care about Black people at all. Like straight up, after her response to the criticism, someone replied saying, quote, "This isn't the first time you've posted your OC next to your real picture and ended up with attacks from these stupid foreigners. If there was a way to block these animals from seeing your content, that'd be great because their brains are so smooth and tiny that they can start a fight over anything." Wow. Crazy statement, by the way. And you want to know the VTuber's response? I'm kind of shortening it, but she basically said, "Thank you so much for the support. I'll keep pushing forward strong because I know I've never committed any crime." Get this girl a PR team, cause what? Not to be that type of person, but your line was "thank you for the support. However, let's not hurl insults at people." But I mean, like, if it was me, right? Like, if I was the one who was receiving support over a pile of criticism, which, if I was the VTuber, I honestly would have not let those comments slide. Even if I was getting mountains of criticism that I probably wouldn't accept as, like, constructive criticism, I don't want my audience to bring people down so that they can lift me up. So her response literally spoke numbers. And it also felt like she did zero reflection. It was more just really looking at her supporters and coming back saying, "I'm still gonna do my own thing." Okay, this last complaint that I kept seeing that I'm going to talk about is the quote, "Americans believe that their racism is universal" comment. And, Brazilians are right in that American racism is not universal. Obviously, African American slavery was not in their history. We hopefully all know that. I will say this though, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, the big three for all VTubers, are American social media platforms. It's obviously not catered only towards Americans, but I'm gonna need everyone outside the US to expect the unexpected. I'm not trying to say you're on an American platform, you gotta follow American laws in here. However, you should understand the weight you have as a content creator because your content on an American platform is open for everybody to see, even outside the US. You're not on Brazilian Twitter, you're just on Twitter. Like that one person who commented that they wish that there was a way to block these foreigners from the VTuber's content. There is none. So you gotta watch how you act because the whole world is your potential audience and at least consider the perspective that is criticizing you. I always thought that this argument was so stupid because just like how racism in America isn't universal, neither is Brazil's idea of dark skin. That is why it's important to think about the situation you're in. I can think of many other countries that don't appreciate darker skin as a beauty point and possibly mistreat others just for the color of their skin. This is social media. You're within the universe, but no idea is universal. So, my final thoughts. This whole thing would have never started had she stayed within her skin tone. Wooloo literally has a shiny form where their skin is white and the wool is brown. From my perspective, I don't see anything excusable about a white person using a darker skinned character as your persona. Whether you appreciate black people or not, I mean, she obviously didn't like black people enough and only ever saw their skin as pretty, since she didn't want to listen to them anyways. If you want to appreciate darker skin, then you're allowed to create OCs based on it, not become the OC and turn it into your persona. There was a bunch of comments from people who talked about how in Brazil there is no racism towards dark skinned people, which I don't know much about, and they could be right. However, just because you appreciate and believe someone's skin tone is pretty, you shouldn't go out of your way to wear it too. It's not an aesthetic, it's some people's entire life, especially in the American point of view. But you know what? I'll end it there. There's so much more I want to talk about, but I'm holding it in because anything else would just be a whole hour long yap session. So let me know your thoughts on the situation. All comments are appreciated. And if you enjoyed the video, let me know. But if anything, I also accept criticism too. So if you have any like defenses towards anything I just said, like please spread the word.